As the three were leaving the room, Quinn stopped by the door and pointed at the briefcase he had looked at before with Logan. "You're right," Quinn said. "I haven't helped you when you helped me so much. You know that briefcase from before? Well, my system says it was made by Richard Eno." With that piece of information, Logan's thoughts were confirmed. He knew it. "You are my friend, Quinn," Logan shouted as the door shut. The biggest worry looming over their heads had finally disappeared, but that didn't mean they were completely in the clear. While Vorden and Peter had decided to go back to their rooms, Quinn decided he would go visit the girls and update them on the situation. They knew what they were planning to do today, although Lila was happy to help. Erin didn't want to be anywhere near Fex, and Vorden strongly agreed to this as well. So Layla and Erin had agreed to stay out of it for the most part and allowed the others to help Peter out. Boys weren't allowed in girls' dorm rooms, and although they usually weren't very strict on this rule, it was currently nighttime, and it would be curfew time, so Quinn was more worried if anyone were to see him. After a knock on the door, he spoke through the door to confirm it was him, and the three of them then went for a walk down the hallway while Quinn explained everything that happened. "So, you won't have to eat humans anymore, and there is no need to get involved with that Fex kid again? Good," Erin said. After hearing everything that happened, it seemed like they were able to solve Peter's problem with ease, and thanks to the dark marketplace, if another ghoul was created, they would be able to solve the problem a lot easier. "Should I experiment with myself first, before telling the others?" Layla thought. "Just maybe, if I get strong enough I can break free." Still, after Quinn had told them everything, Layla could tell that something else was on his mind. "What's wrong? Is there another problem?" she asked. Quinn then proceeded to tell them the situation with Duke, how they desperately wanted Peter to learn the level 4 Earth ability by the end of the week. The major problem was Peter didn't have an Earth ability, and he was too involved to cut ties. "Wait, did you say the end of this week, this Sunday?" Layla asked. "Yeah, that's what Peter told us," Quinn replied. Layla was visibly shaken after she heard this news, but she forced her facial expression to remain neutral. The message she had received from one of the pure agents was Truedream would be coming at the end of the week. On the same day, they wanted Peter to learn the ability. If the others found out Truedream was coming over, they wouldn't find it a big deal, since he had close ties to the military and would often visit the military bases. But Layla knew the truth. One of the pure group's biggest targets was Truedream. He was the whole reason why the military was able to keep such a strong grip on everyone. The reason why he was coming, of course, was to take students' abilities from them and add them to his men. And Peter had been selected as one of the targets. After finishing their talk, the group decided to leave each other and head for their rooms for the night. When Quinn opened the door, he was surprised to see Vorden rushing over to him. "Quinn, thank heavens you're back," Vorden said. "Peter, he's become a weirdo. He's just standing above his head and won't listen to anything I say. I was trying to relax, listen to some music, but I can't with him just standing there staring. What the hell happened to him?" Quinn started to laugh nervously. It looked like Peter had changed more than he thought. "Peter, you can rest. Why don't you lie on the bed?" Peter did as asked, but when lying on the bed, they noticed he didn't close his eyes. "System, what's up with him?" Quinn asked. "Don't worry, he just recently changed. You have to think of him as a newborn person. He will soon start to do things on his own more often, but now that he is an undead, he will no longer require any sleep," the system replied. Seeing this made Quinn a little upset. The old fragile, scared Peter had completely disappeared and was no longer there. Even though Quinn had saved him, had he? It seemed like Peter was now an entirely different person, and he didn't even know who he was looking at anymore. Inside the girls' room, Layla herself was having trouble sleeping. There were 3 days before Truedream would arrive on campus, which meant she had 3 days to figure out a way to tell the others what was going to happen to Peter, without revealing who she was. The sun had finally risen. A few people around the school had struggled to sleep through the night, and Layla was one of them. Throughout the whole night, she had been pondering how to inform the others. She had already made up her mind that she needed to warn them, but couldn't figure out how. She didn't want to imagine what would happen when Truedream found out that Peter had no ability that could be taken. She was aware of his intentions. From what the boys and Pure had told her, Layla had accurately deduced the specifics of Duke's plan. Every term, Truedream would visit a different military base. However, it turned out that he had visited a particular one more often than the others, and that was Military Base 2. This was the reason why Layla had been sent to this place. Something strange was going on with Military Base 2. They hadn't been able to figure out what yet, because so far every agent they sent had disappeared. Thus, they decided to do things differently this time, so instead of sending a grown-up, they decided to send an agent, who was at the age of the draft, a student. The reason for Truedream's visit was to acquire different abilities from students. Every time that Truedream used his ability, it would also increase his ability level along with it. His skill bypassed almost all the information that they had about mutant cells. After taking someone's ability away, he could then implant the ability into a new person. Their body would automatically get the same ability level as the one that was taken. Nevertheless, they would still need to take the time to get familiar with the ability and learn all the skills. This was why they were offering Peter a lot of ability books, and it also explained why they were hurrying him to get his ability to level 4. There were always certain criteria when it came to choosing which students to use for this. The first and most important criterion was they should never hail from an original family. Although Truedream's family was one of the Big Four, usually other originals were also part of the Big Four or under the banner of one. So this criterion was added to avoid a war between the Big Four. They needed students who wouldn't stand out so that people wouldn't notice or care if they were to go missing. As such, another one of the criteria was the student had to come from a poor family, ones with no backing or support. Quinn was still safe because the school believed that at present he had no ability. But both Layla and Peter's abilities were documented, and both of them fulfilled the criteria. It was different for them. There was a possibility that along with Peter, Layla was also a target. Layla had entered the school using false documents. Her family wasn't prominent, but she didn't mind if she was to lose her ability. She had only obtained it for the mission in the first place. The only thing that she didn't want was to end up like Peter and be the military's. She needed an outside person, where she could observe everything that was happening without getting involved. With all things said, she didn't have to warn them about what could happen, but Layla wanted to. The question left was, how should she go about explaining what she had discovered? The morning combat classes had started, and Layla had wanted to team up with Quinn, hoping she would be able to get a hint on what they were planning with Peter. Unfortunately, before she could even reach Quinn, he had already gone off to Fex. Although the two of them didn't talk much, she could see that Quinn was enjoying himself while practicing with Fex. Perhaps it was because they were both of the same race, or had something else in common. She could tell a real friendship was beginning to develop. "I hope I will have something like that. It all seems so real instead of this fakeness," Layla thought as she looked at her disposition. "What are you daydreaming about?" Erin shouted. "I can't believe we have to continue practicing these stupid leg techniques. This is the beast weapons class, not the martial arts class. And Leo said he wouldn't move on until he was satisfied with the performance of every single one of us," she complained, with a slight look of frustration on her face. The two girls continued to train together using the leg techniques, but a slip in Layla's concentration caused her to drop her guard. She wasn't able to lift her knee in time, as how she would usually during practice, and instead, Layla took a full-blown kick from Erin to her side. "Ouch!" Layla exclaimed as she dropped to the floor while gripping her side. "What's wrong? We have practiced that kick so many times. I was sure you would be able to block something like that," Erin said as she walked over and offered her hand to her fallen comrade. Layla lifted her hand to grab Erin's, but the pain on her side hurt even more. Furthermore, she noticed a stinging pain arise every time she breathed. "What the hell? I knew your sword skills were monstrous, but where did you get such strength in your kicks? I think you broke one of my ribs." "Would you stop complaining?" Erin said as she knelt and placed her hand on her friend's side. She then activated her ice ability ever so slightly, causing the muscles around that area to become numb from the cold, and also taking the pain away. "Can someone call the guard and take her to the doctor's office?" Leo said. Erin then lifted Layla from the ground, allowing her to use her shoulder for support. "Don't worry, I'll take her. Besides, she needs to walk a little bit on her own. It will only make her stronger," Erin said. The two girls then started to leave the room together. As they were walking, Layla couldn't help but feel useless and pathetic. Other than a blood bank for Quinn, what use did Layla have? She hadn't even been helpful in the fight with the Dalki. If it wasn't for Erin, the two of them would have been dead back then. And Vorden, although a bit messed up in the head, was very powerful. The only one who was even more worthless than her was Peter, and that wasn't much of an achievement. "Would you please stop crying? I didn't mean to hit you that hard. You usually block something like that," Erin said, in an attempt to comfort Layla. Layla didn't even notice, since her thoughts were so muddled that tears were now slowly descending from her eyes. She wiped them away and simply put on a brave smile. "Oh, it's not that. I was just thinking about how useless I am to the team whenever we're in a fight," Layla said. "Well, you're not wrong about that," Erin replied, not realizing how harsh she sounded. Although Erin was right, it still hurt Layla to hear it straight from her mouth. "But you help in other ways. You were the one who thought about that blood bowl, remember? I can't say much, but honestly, if you weren't there to hold me back sometimes, I would have already shoved a few spikes up the boys' backsides." Layla laughed. "Erin, this is kind of a strange question to ask, but are we friends?" "Well, I don't carry everyone I hurt out of the room." Although Erin didn't say it, Layla knew her well enough to know what she was like by now. Back at the training hall, the lesson had just finished for the day. Quinn had managed to work up quite a sweat, all the while going up against Fex. Truth be told, Fex was the only person in the room who he could go against, while merely using a fraction of his power, outside of Leo, of course. When practicing with Layla and Erin, he would always have to hold back his power slightly, but with Fex, it was different. Now that the lesson was over for the day, students were free to do what they wanted. That's the moment when Quinn noticed Fex, who was looking around the room oddly and was kicking the floor about until he eventually started to speak up. "Hey, I know this is kind of strange to ask after everything that happened between us, but what are you planning to do after this?" Fex asked. Lately, whenever Fex would try to approach people, they would turn away as soon as they saw his watch. It was a strange reaction, but he had finally understood the matter when he saw the mistreatment going on around the school. This caused him to be quite an outcast, yet that wasn't the only problem. He was also incredibly bored. With no one to talk to and nothing to explore, he started to look forward to the training sessions with Quinn. "Me? I was planning to go to the VR gaming room," Quinn replied. "VR gaming room? What's that?" Fex asked, with a little bit of excitement in his eyes. "I can show you if you want. You want to come along?" "Well, I mean, if you want me to come that bad, sure," Fex replied, his anticipation clearly showing through his faux-shy demeanor. The two boys had finished their combat classes for the day and decided that they would head to the VR room together. Fex was standing casually outside in the sun, and Quinn could see it didn't affect him at all. While Quinn had to prepare his trusty umbrella and prop it up before stepping into the sun. It was a strange action, but not too strange that it gathered the attention of others. Earth had gotten hotter over the years, and there were quite a few people who wished to protect their skin with the use of UV umbrellas. On a hot day like today, no one would bat an eye at what Quinn was doing. Seeing this, Fex looked at Quinn oddly. He had only seen a vampire use such things in really old books. He couldn't help but giggle at the thought that Quinn looked like an old man. "What are you doing with that old thing?" Fex asked. "Do you not have a ring?" He lifted his hand, showing the small ring. Quinn was now close enough to see that it did look like the one in his shop. After using his inspection skill, it confirmed the fact that it was the very same ring. Quinn didn't know how to reply to Fex. The system had informed him that one of these rings were the basics of vampires, and it seemed like if he was to come up with something, it would reveal him even sooner. But while Quinn was trying to come up with a lie, Fex was the one who once again came up with his explanation. "Oh, I see now," Fex said. "You're one of those vampires raised here on Earth, aren't you? Trained to blend in and report back? I guess that's why you didn't go through the formal initiation and don't have one of these." When Fex said those words, something had caught his attention. The fact that Fex said one of the vampires on Earth. Did this mean that vampires came from another planet? Were vampires a type of alien too? "System, do you have an answer for this?" Quinn asked. "I'm afraid I'm just as confused as you are. As far as I know, vampires have always existed on Earth alongside humans. Although, I'm afraid I don't know how much time has passed since your family has had the book, so a lot could have changed by then," the system replied. Looking at Fex, it seemed like he was showing off his ring quite proudly, and that's when Quinn remembered the requirements to get the ring. It was to kill 10 death bats, an advanced-type creature. This brought back memories for Quinn of how hard it was for him to defeat an intermediate creature. He couldn't imagine how hard an advanced-tier creature was and the many more classes above them. "Was the initiation hard?" Quinn asked. Fex started to laugh nervously at this question. Was it hard? Of course it was hard. Yet I was one of the youngest vampires to ever complete it. As he said this, he lifted his chest a bit to make himself feel a little bigger. The vampire continued. You see, the initiation is getting the materials for the ring itself. A young vampire must go out and slay 10 death bats. Once you earn this ring, you are no longer required to go through regular school training with all the rest, but it seems I just jumped from one training pool into another, Fex finished, a little bit depressed. Although Quinn didn't know why, he could tell Fex was slightly nervous when answering the question. It helped that he was the type that was easy to read what they were feeling, because they didn't hide the emotions on their face at all. However, this conversation reminded Quinn about how he had to be cautious around Fex. Although the two of them seemed to be on friendly terms, he still couldn't trust him, and didn't know what his goal here at the school was. The fact that he managed to kill 10 advanced tier beasts was a big reminder of the difference between the two of their strengths. As they continued to walk to the VR center, Fex looked at his ring and felt a little guilty. He had lied to Quinn just now. He hadn't earned the ring like he said he did. Fex was hoping to become one of the youngest vampires to ever complete the initiation. He had gone out and traveled and fought against the Death Bat, but after a gruesome fight and near-death experience with one, Fex only just managed to come out on top. He thought with him being at the top of his class, he was ready, but it seemed like it wasn't the case. He was embarrassed, though. Before he had left the school classes, he had told everyone how easy it would be for him to achieve such a task. If they were to find out he only managed to defeat one before giving up, he would become a laughingstock. So in turn, he decided to go on to the marketplace and hire some travelers to hunt the beasts for him. With this, he managed to gather most of the crystals needed to make the ring. But his last traveler who accepted the contract never replied. In the end, it was all thanks to the bloody Volver who placed the crystal in the marketplace that he was able to craft the ring. They had finally arrived at the VR room, and it was a sight that Fex had never seen before, although he wasn't amazed, because it just looked like a room full of sleeping capsules. Judged by his reaction, Quinn could tell Fex had no idea what these were. Don't worry, I was confused when I came here for the first time as well. Just follow me and I'll let you know about the basics, Quinn said. They went to the counter, and Quinn paid for both him and Fex to play in the capsules for a few hours. Quinn still had plenty of money left from the crystals he had sold earlier. On top of that, he also still had 9 crystals that hadn't been used to create the suit that he could also sell from the last outing. Hey, I have my own money, you know. You didn't have to pay for me, Fex said, displaying his golden card. Don't worry, Quinn said, gritting his teeth, not realizing his mistakes. If he knew Fex had money, he wouldn't have paid for him. He wasn't some charity, and right now, he wanted to save up every credit he had. It was only to find out more about vampires that Quinn was being so nice to him. He didn't think vampires would have much money after all. How would they obtain such a thing when they were hiding all the time? Instead, it seemed like Fex was some spoiled rich kid if he was waving the gold card around like that. Unlike Vorden, who also had a gold card but didn't have much money in it to begin with. Quinn proceeded to show how to operate the machine and such before getting in. He then took note of his capsule number, so it was easier for him to add to his friends list. They both got into the pods and logged into the game. Fex's whole mind was then transported to the large, empty white lobby space. Wow, what is this? Fex said. Was I teleported somewhere? No, it can't be. It feels a little strange, from what Quinn said. Only my mind is being used to control this. Wow, this is amazing. I wonder why the other vampires don't use this. Just as Fex was in deep thought thinking about it, he had received a friend request. User ID Bloody Volver would like to add you. Fex carefully looked at each letter of the word in front of him, one by one. He needed to make sure what he was seeing was real. Bloody Volver? No, it can't be, Fex thought. While looking at the name, he realized that it was the same user ID that was also used in the marketplace when he had bought the Beast Crystal. However, it was quite common for people to use the same user IDs when logging into different websites and games. And what were the chances of someone else having the same user ID and also being a vampire? Fex had found it strange in the first place that someone had been selling the crystal. The planet where the death bats were populated on wasn't a place where travelers would go too often. It was one of the reasons why the vampires had decided to use it as their training ground, on top of the fact that their crystals could be used to create the ring. When Fex first saw the crystal, he thought maybe someone had the bat along the way and didn't know what to do with it, and chose to sell it after finding out it could only be used to create a silly ring. After all, it did not affect humans, not even a little buff in strength. But now, thinking about it more, all sorts of questions started running through his head. If Quinn was the same person, what was he doing on that planet, and how did he get a deathbat crystal? Fex knew his strength, and he wasn't strong enough to beat one. And even if he was, why wouldn't he keep the crystal for himself and make a ring of his own instead of using that silly umbrella? As of now, nothing was making sense in his head, and thinking about it was starting to make it hurt. He accepted the friend request, and immediately Quinn was transported to the same white space that Fex was in as well. "Foxy Fex?" Quinn said, looking at his username. "What, you don't like it?" Fex said. "Better than Blood Evolver. What are you trying to do? Tell everyone out there you're a vampire?" Quinn laughed nervously back. "I thought it would be vague enough. Plus, who else but other vampires would think that?" Quinn replied. This was the confirmation Fex needed. No other vampire out there would be silly enough to have a name such as Blood Evolver. The name was a little bit childish, and Quinn kind of fit that image. A naive young vampire. Although Fex couldn't talk much himself. Though this only added to the mystery of Quinn for Fex. Still, it didn't change the fact that thanks to Quinn selling the crystal, Fex was finally able to leave his home and enjoy the outside world. So far, his experiences hadn't been great, but it was different, and he was slowly learning to enjoy them. It wasn't the same boring old routine he would practice in and out, and Fex wanted to thank Quinn for that in some way. While standing there and thinking about everything, Fex could see Quinn using his blood skills in the game. Not only that, but he was able to use them constantly without getting tired. "What is that?" Fex asked. "This?" Quinn replied. Quinn then explained how while in the lobby of the game, they were able to practice using their vampire skills without tiring out. But once they were in the game, their normal body limits would be put on them as usual. Quinn didn't talk about the HP reduction not working while in the game, but since the system said only his vampire skills was linked to a system-like thing, he thought it would be hard to explain. After trying out a few skills here and there, Fex had a big grin on his face. He then started performing his martial arts while mixing in the blood skills. The main skills he used were Blood Swipe and Blood Spray, but once in a while he would use skills that Quinn had never seen before, such as the Blood Wall and a few others. Still, what had impressed Quinn the most while watching him practice was the martial arts he was performing with his fists. They were fast and compact, and he could tell it increased the efficiency of something like Blood Spray. When Fex had stopped, he walked over to Quinn with a hop in his step. "Hey man, this is great! I wonder why the vampires don't have a bunch of these in their buildings. It could help the kids train. Although, I guess if they get too used to the game, then it wouldn't help them out that much in a real battle, but this is still great." While Fex was yammering away, he noticed that Quinn was staring at the blank space where Fex was standing. He started waving his hand in front of Quinn to see if he was still there. "Hello?" Fex said, still waving his hand. "Oh, sorry," Quinn replied. "I was just looking at your martial arts." "Oh yeah, that's right. You didn't learn any, did you, since you grew up here and everything?" Fex then started to think if there was something he could do. Then something popped in his head, an idea. "You know I can teach you the martial arts if you want." Fex thought this was a great idea. He wanted to repay Quinn for getting him the beats crystals he needed, and this could be his way of returning the favor secretly. "Really? Would that be okay?" Quinn asked. "Why not? You're a vampire, so you have the right to learn it." Fex then got into a fighting stance and tried to show all the motions to his attacks while explaining. "So for the first step, you want to look like this. Then you're going to feel the fighting energy rise. Next, with your hands, you need to go pow pow pow," Fex said as he made every move. "Did you get all that?" Kinda?" Quinn started copying what Fex had done, but it didn't seem to be working out at all, and even Fex realized this. "I'm sorry, I guess I'm not the teacher type. I'm not that good at explaining things." "It's okay," Quinn replied, but Fex could tell Quinn was a little down when saying this. Then a lightning bolt idea had hit him. "Hey, there is something you could do. Although I can't show you or teach you through words, I could move your body." "What do you mean?" Quinn asked. "Do you remember what I did to your friend on the roof? Well, if you let me do the same to you, then I can show you how to use martial arts. My string puppet is unique, so when you perform it, it will feel like I'm performing the skills through your body," Fex explained. Not only that, but it should allow you to memorize everything through your own body. In a way, this will be a shortcut, and you will learn it far quicker. What Fex was offering wasn't a bad proposal. The problem was whether or not Quinn could trust him with his body. "You worried, aren't you?" Fex said. Judging by how long Quinn had remained silent, Fex could tell that he was in deep thought, deciding whether or not to trust him. And Fex really couldn't blame him. If he was in Quinn's situation, he would have done the same. "Is there a risk to this?" Quinn asked the system. After losing to Fex in battle so easily, and seeing him go toe-to-toe with Leo, he felt like learning the military martial arts, and the vampires would put him at a big advantage. "I think you should go for it," the system replied. "In terms of other vampires, you're a bit weak and on the wimpy side. I think this would be a major progress for you." "I know that," Quinn snapped back, a little annoyed at the system's words. He knew he was weak, but the system didn't have to remind him every time. "I'm talking about him taking control of me. What happens if it becomes permanent?" "It won't be. Vampires can't have other vampires as their puppets permanently. It was why he was so interested in your friend. If you want to remove the strings, you can forcibly cut them, though it may take some time depending on your strength, and it causes extreme pain." "So there is the possibility he could use me to hurt those around me, even for a short period if he wanted to?" That was when Quinn came up with an idea of his own. While in the normal gaming pods, both his and Fex's ability wasn't selectable. That was because these abilities seemed to be unique to vampires. However, it was different when using Logan's pod. With his pod, he was able to program and record abilities, and perhaps find a way so the two of them could link up and use their abilities together. Inside the game, there was no threat, no danger. "Let me think about it for now," Quinn replied. "Why don't I show you how to play first?" Quinn then showed the basics of how to use the game's interface. He also explained the matchmaking system and the process to select an ability. Fex was pretty upset when he found out he wasn't able to use his strings ability in-game, but his mood quickly changed when he realized he was able to customize his in-game avatar according to his preferences. Fex designed his character in full black clothing. He looked like an ancient ninja with a face mask and hood, only allowing his eyes to be seen. He spent more time customizing his character than he did on anything else, and he had already used his money card to buy a few extra items for clothing to get the full set. When comparing the avatar, Quinn's now looked incredibly plain, since he was only able to use the free items that were available to everyone. He could spend the money he had, but he still remembered how he was struggling even getting 10 credits not too long ago. Finally, it was time for them to search for opponents. While doing so, Quinn went for the quick selection option since he no longer gained EXP from low levels. The opponent would at least need to be at a level 3 mark for him to gain any EXP. A match had been confirmed, and Fex was transported to the seating area in the arena. He could see Quinn standing on one end while his opponent stood on the other. His opponent was skinny, tall, and seemed to resemble a tree. What surprised him, though, was the fact that when he was sitting in the seating area, he wasn't the only one watching Quinn's fight. "Hey, you're new," Nate said, looking at Fex. "What is all this?" Fex asked, looking confused. "Is everyone here to see the two of them fight? His opponent must be pretty special." He looked at the stand, noticing the crowd that had formed. There were 50 people in total, all dressed up in different avatars. Judging by what Quinn had said about the game, this was optional, meaning all the people that had appeared had chosen to do so of their own volition. "Of course, it seems like Blood Evolver has gained quite a following," Nate replied. Since the last fight between Quinn and the level 4 user, people had become fans of him. They added him to his watch list, so they would be notified whenever the Blood Evolver was online. Originally, most of them were watching Quinn's matches for different reasons. He was known as a hacker, someone who was able to use abilities not programmed into the game. No one knew how he was able to do this. But after witnessing his stellar performance from the previous match, they had quickly forgotten about everything else and solely wanted to watch all of the Blood Evolver's upcoming fights. Nate had watched all the fights Quinn fought so far, so he recognized the regulars and the irregulars, which is why he was able to spot Fex right away. "So, are you implying that all these people are here to see the Blood Evolver?" Fex asked. "What makes him so special?" Nate thought about that for a while, looking deep in thought. After some time had passed, he finally came up with an answer. "At first, it was his skills that interested me, much like everyone else here. But after that, I noticed something. Every time he came back to play the game, he would have grown in strength by leaps and bounds. And for some reason, watching someone grow from a small little fish into a fierce dragon is exciting for me, Nate explained, glancing at the match. Now let's see how much you've grown this time. The countdown for the match had begun, and it was time for the two of them to fight. Immediately, the tree-like student placed both of his hands on the ground. As he did, multiple thick tree roots started to form across the floor and spiraled their way towards Quinn. The first thing he did was perform a blood swipe at the roots, hoping to cut them down. As the attack reached the roots, it caused the first set to break, but it would keep coming forward. Windwalk activated. With his Tier 2 boots, he was able to outmaneuver the roots. Although there were many roots, and his blood swipes couldn't deal with all of them, he was able to outrun them with his speed. He circled the attack and came to the student's side, preparing himself to try something he had been itching to try out since he had joined the game. The wood user, seeing this, immediately shot out a large trunk from the palm of his hand that came out straight and fast. Flash step! Performing the flash step, he avoided the attack and was now even closer to his opponent. Trees, protect me! The wood user shouted, and suddenly the user was surrounded by all sides with thick tree trunks. It was as if a forest had suddenly sprouted in the middle of the battlefield. This is perfect, Quinn thought. Right now he wanted to test out the idea he had, and the student had decided to become a still target. It was perfect for practice. Stopping in his tracks, he firmly planted both feet on the floor. Then, from his toes, moving up to his hip, he swung out his leg like a whip. While doing all these actions, he started to think back to the feeling of performing blood swipe in his hands, the rush of energy that flowed through his body as they left his fingers. While practicing his kicks in the weapons hall, he had pictured this movement several times, and right now was the first time he was combining the two. The energy flowed inside his body and was then released from his legs. A single large line of red energy left with it, shaped like the crescent moon. It was far larger than that of his regular blood swipe. As it hit the first set of tree trucks, it managed to slice through them with ease. The tree user ducked down in time, avoiding the attack from cutting his head off. But Quinn wasn't done yet. He hopped and changed his stance slightly, performing the same kick with his other leg, cutting the trees down from the other side. Both sides of the tree trunks shook due to the slightly angled cut and fell to the floor. The wood user was now panicking, but before he could even act, Quinn was already above him, performing the final axe kick, followed by a blood swipe. Level 4 opponent has been defeated. 10 EXP gained. 80 of 100 experience points. Congratulations, a new skill has been created. Blood Crescent Kick. It seems like you have gotten stronger once again, Nate said. It had been a while since Quinn fought, and the last was against Fex. Before that, it was against the one-scale Dalki. During both of these fights, he realized that he needed to get stronger. He knew he still had a long way to go, but with everything that was happening, he wasn't sure if he had gotten any stronger. He needed this fight to gauge just how much he had improved. Since the last time he played the game, he had gained a few extra stats, buffing up his body and his abilities. Even though he couldn't use his shadow skills in the game, he liked that it would force him to be creative in using his blood skills while fighting. All these things combined was what led him to come up with the new skill in today's match. New skill, Blood Crescent Kick. A new skill, but how? Quinn thought. It was the first time a skill had popped up without him having leveled up. He also didn't increase any stats to get the skill either. Impressive, the system said. It seems like you managed to create a unique skill. This is a skill that you made all on your own, one that was not part of the system originally. By combining the martial arts skills Leo had taught him with the blood swipe skill he had learned from the system, he had created a unique skill only he could use. Blood Crescent Kick. When using the skill while performing different types of kicks, a red line of blood aura in the shape of a crescent will be made. The attack carries a distance of 10 meters, but the aura will get smaller and weaker the further it travels. Cost, -2 HP for every kick. Compared to the blood swipe skill, the two attacks were quite different. Blood swipe released from Quinn's fingertips, forming a claw-like shape, and 5 small lines of red aura. He could also use blood swipe with both of his hands and bring the lines closer together to form a single stronger red line. However, this didn't seem to be as effective as 2 single blood swipes. The good thing about blood swipe was that because it had 5 separate lines, it covered a wider range, making it harder for a person to dodge, and they were more likely to use a block skill, while the blood crescent kick was a single large line of red aura. It was sharper, faster, and also had a longer range, but didn't have the same wide area of attack. There was also the fact that it cost 2 HP to use the kick instead of just 1 HP for a blood swipe. This didn't look like a lot at first, but Quinn knew that in a prolonged fight like he had against the Dalki, it would soon add up fast. It was one of the main problems with combining blood spray with his punches. Fex, having witnessed the whole thing, was quite amazed. Did he come up with that skill himself? When did he have time to learn it? I saw him learn the leg kicks at the same time as me, and how does he know how to use advanced skills like the flash step? Yet, he doesn't even know the basic hand-to-hand combat of the vampires. As he was deep in thought, he heard a laugh by his side. "Looks like another one has been converted into a fan," Nate said. "You wouldn't believe it, but every time he fights, he shows me something new. This kid is growing stronger fast." "Every time?" Fex replied. "Are you sure he didn't just use these skills before?" "I'm positive," Nate replied. "The first time we fought, I beat him. I beat him in such a way that made sure he showed me everything he had. But then I watched him fight against someone else, and he showed me a new skill. If he had used that in our fight, I don't know how I would have. Looking at him now, he's like an entirely different person from back then." If what Nate was saying was true, Quinn was getting stronger at an incredibly fast pace, one that hadn't been seen throughout the history of vampires. Perhaps he is related to them. But I thought they all died out. If it's true, it would make sense why he has the shadow ability. Did they just move to Earth instead? Quinn then sent a message to Fex, saying he was free to play a few games of his own if he wanted to. Right now, Quinn wanted to practice this move. Fex replied saying it was okay, and he would wait as he wished to watch Quinn fight a couple more times. Quinn went into his next matchmaking game again, and with it, the crowd had followed. At first, he found it strange to see the people watching him. Since he had never played the game before, he was wondering if it was normal for so many people to be spectating one person. Did they randomly stumble upon his match, or were they there because he had been on a winning streak for a while now, hoping he would eventually lose? However, Quinn didn't have time to worry about them and needed to worry about himself. In the next game, he was placed with a level 2. Knowing he would get no experience in this match, he tried to finish it as quickly as possible. He activated the Windwalk skill in his boots to get in close. Then he used Flash Step and performed the regular Hammer Strike from behind. Hammer Strike and Blood Hammer were still by far his two strongest attacks. For Fex, though, it was the first time he had witnessed Quinn using them. He never used it against him in their fight, possibly because Fex was too fast, since Hammer Strike took a brief moment to charge up. Against these weak people it was fine, but against someone as fast as Fex, it would allow them to get in a free hit. "So he does know the vampire martial arts," Fex thought. "Ah!" he screamed, as he felt like pulling out his hair. "You know what? I'm going to just have to stop guessing and find out myself." 2 more matches were made, and this time they were with another level 3 user and a level 4 user. These matches were closer and took more time, but they weren't as strong as they could have been. Quinn rarely matched up with second years who seemed to have higher tier beast equipment. Quinn could only assume that the system had designed it this way on purpose, or just not many second years were playing the game. If there was one person who would know, it would be Logan. He made a mental note to ask him later. After winning the 2 matches, he had gained 20 more experience points and had decided to take a break. 100 of 400 EXP. Just as he was leaving the game, he had received a single message from Nate. "I'll see you soon, and make sure you join the fighting event." Quinn had remembered Nate quite clearly. It was another loss that had stuck in his mind. And judging by the message, Quinn knew exactly what he was talking about. The upcoming military base event. Soon all the bases would meet up to compete in special events, each trying to show that they were able to raise the best and strongest students. Quinn was excited for once. Perhaps with this event, he would finally be able to show his strength. Inside the VR gaming room, one of the pod doors was abruptly opened, and out stepped a fairly domineering man with a burly build physique. His neck was nearly as wide as his square-shaped head, and for some reason, he also decided to frame his hair in a way that was similar to how his head was sculpted. However, after leaving the gaming pod, having had enough for the day, he was eager to get ready and start practicing for the upcoming event. "A month left, huh? I just wonder how much stronger you can get in that meantime," Nate said with a smile on his face. A few seconds later, a hissing sound was heard from the pod next to his. As the pressure was slowly released from the sealed door, it started to lift, and Nate saw a friendly face peeking in between the aperture. "Hey, that guy keeps getting better in every attempt, doesn't he?" Sam said. "I don't even know if I could beat him in a real battle the way he is now." "You shouldn't talk down to yourself like that," Nate replied. "Remember, he's only a first year, and there are two major differences between the first years and the second years. One is our equipment," Nate said, pointing to the cape that was on Sam's back. "And the second one is our soul weapons. I don't know many first years who have been able to produce a soul weapon, and it's only something that they teach you in your second year." The two of them started to walk back to their dorm rooms. It was already evening and getting late, so it was nearly time for them to go to bed. Nevertheless, they were both excited about what they had just witnessed. "Wait, if he's a first year, do you think they will let him fight in the tournament?" Sam asked. "You saw his skills, right? At the rate that he is improving, even in a month, with or without a soul weapon, he should be able to match us. And that is a scary thought to have, but it makes my heart beat wildly at night." "You're one strange dude," Sam said, looking at the creepy smile on the face of his companion. "Well, you're right about that. With the reputation he already has in the game, I won't be surprised if he's treated like a king at his school," Sam replied. However, both of them were unaware of how truly wrong they were, because the school still did not know of Quinn's true strength, since he was still treated like level 1. The two of them soon went to sleep, ending their eventful day. When the morning arrived, they began to do their normal routine. After eating breakfast, it was time for them to head to their homeroom class. As they entered the room, they felt the strange atmosphere that was hovering in the air. For one, the homeroom teacher hadn't arrived yet, and usually the homeroom teacher would be there to welcome their arrival. The second thing that stood out was that the number of students that were gossiping away increased, and it seemed like the boys were far more excited about the topic of interest than the girls. As he sat on his seat, with Sam next to him, he turned towards his companion. "What's going on?" Nate asked. "How the hell am I supposed to know? You and I came inside the room at the same time. I've been with you since yesterday, you big—" Sam replied. As they both listened carefully to the students who were engaged in their conversations, they managed to catch a few words. They eventually found out what all the commotion was about. "Hey, did you see her?" "What, that new teacher?" "Yeah, she's so beautiful." "I wonder how strong she is. Aren't all military tutors quite strong?" "Most, but not all of them. She might just have a unique ability or was very knowledgeable in a club subject." "Well, whatever class she's going to teach, I'm going to sign up for every one of them." It was clear from their dialogues that a new teacher was coming to school, and not just any teacher, but a true beauty at that. After hearing this news, Nate started to straighten his clothes and made sure that his hair was neatly tucked and sat up straight. "What the hell are you doing?" Sam said. "Do you think you're going to get on with a teacher? You haven't even managed to get together with any of the 20 girls you've confessed to since you came here. It will never happen with that big blockhead of yours." The vein on the side of Nate's head was now bulging, and his eyebrows were twitching. He slowly turned his head, inch by inch, while holding in his anger. "Hey, Sam, when was the last time that you and I had a sparring match? It's been a while, hasn't it? And I'm not talking about the game. I think it's better for both of us if we do it in person. It's going to be much more realistic, and you can feel every bit of pain," Nate replied, making sure to say the last words carefully to hammer them in Sam's head. All of a sudden, the sound of the classroom door sliding was heard. In an instant, as the presence entered the room had a pin-drop silence, enabling them to truly appreciate what was coming into the room. Her skin was as white as the pure specks of snow. Although her features looked soft, no expression was plastered on her countenance. Still, the thing that stood out the most about her was her silver hair. She was wearing the black standard military uniform that they all had to wear. Sporting hair, colored with the brilliance of silver jewelry and tied up with a single ponytail, with a length that managed to reach down to her waist, the professor sauntered to the center of the room. "Hello, students. My name is Silver, and I will be your new homeroom teacher from now on." As she spoke, the expression on her face remained stiff and didn't seem to change one bit. Yet, the boys seemed to only find this feature of her even more attractive. "An angel," Nate said. "A true angel has descended among us mortals." "Oh, no," Sam said while shaking his head. "What the hell happened to the boys these days?" Silver started to scan the entirety of the gathering, looking at the students one by one, but it merely reminded her that she might have to stay in the school for a while. As the file said, it appears that Fex isn't here. Silver had been tasked with the mission of finding and bringing Fex back to his family. However, with their family connections, the most they could do was get her a position as a teacher on one of the military bases. All she could do was rely on luck to see if she would be put at the same military base as Fex. Although to her dismay, it appeared like she wasn't as lucky. While Fex was in Military Base 2, she had been transferred to work at Military Base 6. Without saying anything, she started to walk around the room and gaze at the faces of the students more closely. As she talked to one of the students, even the females had to recognize her ephemeral beauty and started to blush. She continued to stroll around. Finally, she stopped in front of Nate and scrutinized his visage. "Looks like this is going to be my day," Nate cheeringly told himself. She looked at him closer and said, "Why are you so interested in such ugly things?" Although Silver had no idea, she had said these words out loud. The whole room wanted to laugh, yet they did their best to hold it in out of respect for Nate. He wasn't like the other high-level users. He treated everyone in his classroom fairly, even though he was known as the strongest. As Silver walked off and headed back to the front of the class, she had one thought in her mind. "Fex and I will complete my mission and bring you back, even if I have to hurt you, dear brother." It was an early morning for the students at Military Base 2, and although it wasn't time for the students to have breakfast yet, someone or the other could be found roaming around. "Okay, just got to make sure I have everything," Layla said as she slowly breathed in and out. In her hand, she held a white envelope. While holding it, a pair of used disposable gloves. She had repeated these steps multiple times in her head and had done everything so the note couldn't be traced back to her. She felt around the envelope, making sure the nano stick was inside. "Am I sure that I want to do this?" Layla said, speaking to herself. "Everything that I'm going to do is against the protocol, and if I get caught, I don't even think my mother can pull me out of this one." Right now, she stood outside the third floor of the boys' dormitory area, also known as the VIP area for the male students. As she took a step forward, she quickly turned and started walking back, and then, after 2 steps, she stopped again. "I have to. If it wasn't for them, Quinn and everyone would have died back there, and if I don't, who knows what will happen to Quinn?" She shook her head violently and then once again headed back to the VIP area. Once she had entered, she made sure to check the halls. She also checked the other rooms and areas to see if anyone was out and about. Although it was early morning and most students wouldn't be up by now, she still needed to make sure. After placing the white envelope on the floor just outside one of the doors, she stepped back towards the exit of the hallway right by the staircase. No turning back now. Using her ability, she pushed the envelope underneath the door, and it was now on the other side. After that, she quickly ran down the stairs, heading back to her room. So far, for everyone, it had been a normal day. They ate their morning food as usual, and then went to their morning homeroom classes. It was now lunchtime, which was usually just before combat classes, and at that moment, while Vorden, Quinn, and Peter were outside, Quinn had received a ping on his watch. "Ding!" "A voice message?" Quinn said. "First, you are listening to this message. Make sure that no one not worthy of your trust is around you. I'll give you a few seconds to decide and do something about it before I continue," Logan said. Quinn looked around, and the boys were outside on a bench. Vorden and Peter then huddled around Quinn to hear the message better, and also made sure no one came close, and if someone did, then they would quickly stop the message. "Good," the message said as it continued to play. "I received some interesting information, and it concerns Peter and your little problem. I suggest you gather everyone that knows about what Peter is and bring them to my room, because we are going to need everyone's help on this to get out of this mess. Oh, and if you could bring me a sandwich from one of the vending machines, that would be good. You don't have to do this, of course, but it will do good for my brain power and help me think better." Although the tone of the message didn't sound very urgent, Quinn knew that if Logan was initiating contact with him and was asking to bring everyone into his room, it was a big deal. Logan didn't like people coming into his room in the first place. Logan was afraid that people may steal his ideas for his new future inventions, or even destroy whatever he was working on. So Quinn knew that this was a big deal. "You heard him, guys. You inform the girls and bring them to Logan's room," Quinn said, looking at Vorden. "Peter, it might be best if you go with him." "What are you going to do, sir?" Peter asked. "I need to get that sandwich," Quinn replied. The group had split up and Vorden and Peter went to get the two girls. However, Quinn didn't just do that so he could get a sandwich. He was going to look for Fex. With his nose, it wouldn't be difficult to find him, and he knew that if he informed Vorden about this, he would be against it. But if it was something to do with Peter, he was sure Fex would help out. The girls, along with Vorden and Peter, were patiently waiting inside Logan's room. The boys were quite calm, while Erin was tapping her foot away and about. Lately, she had been using all her spare time to practice her sword skills, yet she still could never achieve the same results as she did on the roof that day. Being here just seemed like a waste of her time. While Layla, who was standing next to her, felt a horrible bubbly feeling in her stomach. Her heart was pounding so hard she thought it was going to jump out of her throat. "Can't you just tell us what this is all about?" Erin said, annoyed. "This is a very serious matter," Logan replied, sitting in his chair. He was currently playing with a trapezium-style Rubik's Cube made from metal. The inside used little small triggers to twist and turn the shape in all sorts of different directions. This made it multiple times harder than a standard Rubik's Cube. Each time he shifted one of the pieces, a large mechanical sound would be made. "And I would hate to repeat myself," Logan said as he continued to mess around. The room was silent, and the only thing that could be heard was the shifting sounds of Logan playing with the mechanical item. They waited and waited. Click. Click. "Will you put that damn cube away?" Erin shouted. "Before I shove it up your—" Just then the sound of the door was heard. "Looks like they're here," Logan said as he put the cube on the floor. Quinn entered first, and right behind him was Fex. As soon as Erin saw this, she immediately stepped back. "Quinn, what the hell is he doing here?" Vorden shouted. "Wait, I was the one that asked him to come here," Quinn said. "If it's something to do with Peter or the vampires, then he's going to be a big help. Remember, he helped us out last time, and he has stayed true to his words every time." "Look, I can tell I'm not wanted here," Fex said. "If you want me to leave, I'll leave." "No, please stay," Logan said. "Quinn is correct. This matter is very serious, and I do believe you will be a big help." Since Logan was the one who had said it and invited them here, the others felt like they at least needed to hear Logan out before they decided if he needed to be involved or not. "All right, before we begin, I believe, Quinn, you have something for me?" Logan asked as he held out his hand. "My sandwich?" "Oh." Quinn then threw the packaged sandwich over to Logan as a mechanical arm went into the air and grabbed it, unwrapping it for him and feeding him. They all sat there and watched Logan eat the sandwich when he was finally done. He turned to his computer. "Let us begin." As usual, when Logan was explaining things, he would display what he was looking at on his computer screen to the others through a hologram. As he went through files one by one, he would explain what they meant. "When I woke up this morning, I was surprised to see an envelope on the floor," said Logan. "I was afraid that it might be some type of a something. I had my mechanical spiders go ahead and pick it up, then inspect it. I scanned it for any traces of tampering and to see what was inside. To my surprise, there was a small little nano-stick inside with a note." The screen had changed, and right now, a scanned version of the note was being displayed to the others. "In this nano-stick is some information on one of the Big Four family members, more specifically its leader known as Truedream. Our group has managed to gather extensive research into him, and here we can see all his wrongdoings in the past. The reason why I have passed this note on to you is that, unfortunately for all of you, Truedream will be arriving in a few days. Out of everyone, I thought perhaps with your abilities you might be able to do something to stop this madness. We do not wish any innocent to get hurt." At the end of the letter, attached to the bottom, was a stamp, and everyone in the room recognized it well. They had seen it many times on the television, and some of them have even written school reports about the group. It was the group known as Pure. "So what if Truedream is coming to the school?" Erin replied. "He does a routine visit to most of the military bases anyway. I fail to see why this is our problem, and why we should even trust the words coming from a military group." "I don't know," Layla said. "Maybe they know something that we don't, and I'm guessing it has something to do with that stick." "Although I would like to say congratulations," said Logan. "I believe anyone would have been able to come to that conclusion." The files changed once again, and this time they contained reports of the previous visits that Truedream had done. It contained detailed reports of each visit to the military base, but not only that, it also informed them of Truedream's true purpose for coming to the base. The fact that every time he visited, few students would be chosen, and soon after their abilities were gone. It also showed that there was a pattern to these things, and how he seemed to visit the second military base more often than the others. The expression on everyone's faces was sour as they read the reports. "I can't say that it doesn't surprise me," Quinn replied. "It's expected of this crappy system." "I agree, it's bad," Erin said. "But still, I don't see how this involves us. We're just students, and they want us to stop this? He's from one of the big four families." That was when Vorden noticed something. "Wait, did you say the visit was in a few days? Isn't that—" "Looks like we have a winner," Logan said. "This is the reason why I called you all. I remember you telling me that for some reason, Duke had deliberately wanted Peter to reach a level 4. It seems strange, but why were they suddenly showing favoritism to Peter? And what's with the rush?" Putting these two things together makes sense. Not only was Peter originally weak, but he also had no strong family background. Sure, his family would be upset if he was to lose his powers or disappear, but no further steps would be taken, and everyone would soon forget, just like the students before, Logan explained. "And if they find out that Peter has no abilities anymore, they will start asking questions all over again, and it could lead them back to us," Vorden said. "Not just the vampire stuff, but when they find out we were close to Peter, they might start looking into the deaths and more." The group had to take their time to take everything all in. Out of all of them, the first one to leave the room was Erin. "I don't mean to be rude or anything, but I'm not that involved with you guys," Erin said. "I'm not a vampire, and I have no ties to what you did with the others. If I help out in this, it will only make me a bigger target. If you guys are caught trying to do anything, it could come back to me. I can't let that happen." As Erin left the room, not a single person had gone out to chase her. She had a point. She wasn't involved in any of this, and if she did help, it would only put her at risk. "We have 2 days," Logan said. "This Sunday the students will be asked to gather in the assembly hall to welcome Truedream. Usually, the students are asked to stay back after the assembly. This is what is stated in the reports. They will then be taken somewhere, but where? Nobody knows. All that we know is that these students who are taken away lost their abilities. The world is explained that they have been punished for doing something bad, so their ability was taken away, and some even disappear. So, what plans do we have?" The group then continued to discuss what could happen and came up with different plans and scenarios in case different things happened. Finally, after a long talk, they had come up with a plan that seemed to have a good chance of working. And it was like Logan had said, for this to work, they would need everyone who was here to help. This included Fex, and surprisingly, he had agreed without saying too much. If he was discovered by his family now, he would get into too much trouble. But he knew that if the world discovered the existence of vampires and it was because of him, it didn't matter who his father was, no one could save him. With the plan set, everyone left the room. For now, they would all act as normal for the next couple of days until Truedream arrived. When everyone had finally left the room, Logan turned towards his computer once more and started to play a video file. Logan was a very cautious person and was paranoid everyone was out there to steal his work. The school didn't allow any cameras, but that didn't mean he couldn't install any of his own.
Hi, Quinn here. Wondering what happens next? If you want to jump the queue and unleash all episodes, click on the link here and install the Pocket FM app.